Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to the vlog. I'm on video 6 out of 10. I'm trying to do 10 videos in 10 weeks just to get this YouTube channel started, or to test out the YouTube channel, I guess, is more the thing I'm doing. And this week we were up in the mountains earlier, and I had done a sketch last week again, which took a lot of editing, a lot of time. This week I want to do just something where it's kind of like one shot, and then I can do a little bit less editing. So what I decided I'm going to do is a Q&A for reader questions, some questions I got on my first YouTube video that I ever did, my first vlog. I had a call to action for you guys to ask me some questions, and so some readers did, and so I thought I would just answer those. Number one, two people asked me this, Wendy Walsh and Lynn Bliss. Basically, they're asking what inspires me, what's my process, how do I get my ideas? As far as inspiration goes, I honestly have no freaking clue. Sometimes I get ideas out of nowhere and I just think they're such great ideas and I'm like, oh yeah, that's a whole book right there. And then as soon as I start writing the book, I'm just wondering, why the heck did I come up with that idea? And sometimes I get inspired to write a certain idea and then it becomes this easy idea to write about, and it's a much easier situation. But basically the bottom line is me sitting down every single day in the morning and just plugging away and trying to chip away at the story. Just start at the beginning, get to the middle, get to the end, and then go back through it and redo it. That's my process. And well, I guess before that I do outline. I outline like the major plot points. So I'll outline like the inciting incident, which is, or I guess even before that, like what state is the character in beginning the story. So for David Wolf, like what's going on in his life, what's he doing? And then the inciting incident is, you know, the dead body or the crime or whatever happens. Then I'll move on to the first plot point where he gets entangled in the story. And he's kind of like past the point of no return, and he's gonna really dive in and do this story. And then there's the midpoint that I always try to create. And the midpoint is a turning point in the story of, like, you know, looking at the story in a certain way up until that midpoint, and then things flip and then they go on towards the climax after that. And then there's the third plot point, which is like a third disaster in the story that changes everything and is like the worst thing that possibly happened in that book so far. And then there's the climax that I'm going for, and then there's like the ramp down after that. So those are like all the main plot points that I'm thinking about even before I start writing, and I'll kind of just sketch them out. And if I can kind of get like, oh, this happens and then this happens even worse and then this happens, I should be going this way for you guys. This happens and then this happens even worse and then this happens even worse and then this happens even worse and then this is like chaos. And then, I mean, that's what I'm thinking about, is just rising action. How do I get my ideas and what's my research? That's the last part of that question. I get my ideas by sitting there and thinking about it. And then sometimes I get them not thinking about it. In other words, I have no freaking clue. I just have the intention, I'm going to write a book, and they come to me at that point. Like, and then sometimes I'll be, I don't know, one time I was walking along the lake in Grand Lake, Colorado, and it was cold and foggy and rainy, and I looked out at the lake and I was like, I bet that lake is cold, and I got the idea for Cold Lake. Not the plot, but just the title. And that's how that started. My research, I use the internet, and I'll use a lot of Google Maps, and just one really great place I've found is called Quora, Quora. I'm sure you've heard about that, Quora.com. You can like ask questions to a bunch of forensic experts, and they'll get back to you within an hour. I'll go in, I'll dive into a writing session, and I'll have a question. I'll be like, I'll go and ask the question, and like certified experts will fight to answer the thing. Basically, I'm not sure why they're spending so much time on that website, but it's a really good place for that. And then I'll talk to people, friends of friends, cops. Cops always have larger than life, crazier than reality stories that you can't even like put in books because people would think you're just being too weird. And so I kind of have to even dial back like what cops tell me and use it. And it's just good to talk to cops, obviously, because I write about cops. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. And I forgot to write who this was. Let me pause. Mary S. asks or says, I would like to see the places that inspired your stories and why they did so. Just some of my favorite places in the mountains of Colorado that inspire my stories and that inspired the creation of Rocky Points are, I love Steamboat Springs. I'm kind of going north to south here, I'm thinking. Steamboat Springs, I like that. And just the surrounding country of that and the small town feel there. And Winter Park, I grew up going there a lot. Winter Park and Fraser. Summit County, there's some stuff there that I draw from. Crested Butte is like my favorite spot, probably in Colorado, or one of them. Silverton, I have a friend that lives there, and I love going to Silverton. It's so cool there. I love the San Juans, and Durango and Mesa Verde. And I would say those are like my favorite spots in Colorado. Yeah, as off the top of my head. Next question. This is from author Chuck Buda. What challenges me most as an author? Well, the main thing is patience. It takes so freaking long and so many hours of just concentration and plodding slowly through, vomiting stuff onto the page, and then cleaning it up. Sorry for this metaphor. It's making me sick even thinking about it. Just making it just a crappy, shitty story. And then like the slowness of writing, I wrote down here. Every time I finish a book, I have all these ideas for other stories. But there's just so many stories I can get out of my brain in my lifetime. And every time I write one, I'm just like, oh, I'm just exhausted. So I guess like the slowness, and that's another version of the word patience there. See, comparing myself to other authors, that's another challenge that challenges me a lot. There's a lot of authors out there that are doing much better than me, that I've become friends with. And as soon as I start looking at them and being like, what are they doing? How come they're doing so good? Wow, whatever. Just insert any comparison I'm doing with them. That's a challenge, and I need to pull back and then just look at what I'm doing and keep it with that. And I'm a lot happier doing that. Another challenge is the solitude of writing. Just sitting here staring at a computer day in and day out for hours on end is very solitary and lonely. So yeah, I have to figure out other ways to socialize in life outside of work. Okay, yeah, and then the last thing I wrote was another challenge of mine is separating the word count from like happiness. Because I try to shoot for like 3,000 to 4,000 words per day, and some days I'll come home and I'll have written a bunch on my computer, but I can't use it because I realize I wrote myself into a corner or like some logical fallacy that just won't work at all. And I have to completely erase what I did all day. So I just feel like that's, if it's not a usable piece of writing, I feel like I failed that day. And that's just, I have to come home at that point, or if I'm working in my home office, then go out of this room and just kind of shrug that off and be present for my family. But it's so much easier for me if I got through my 3,000 words quota that day, or 4,000 words. I just feel in such a better mood. I wish it wasn't that way, but that's just how it is. So that's a struggle for me. Okay, moving on to the next question. What types of outlines work best for you? I think I just basically just said it. With all the plot points, I'll go through all those plot points first. And it's every time I start writing a new book, and I'm starting right now a new book, I realize how just chaotic it is for me. Because then I got to realize, like, okay, wait a minute. Who are the characters? And then I got to figure out the characters. Then I got to figure out who they are. Otherwise, I don't know what they're going to be doing. If I don't, like, I always talk about, like, if, let's say you were in a coffee shop and some guy came in with a knife and started waving it in people's faces, and you had a character that was in that coffee shop, what would that character do? Well, you need to know who that character is first. If he's like an ex-Navy SEAL, he's like, you know, moving towards the action, and he's going to take that guy down. If it's a person whose father stabbed him when he was a child, and he's got this crazy memory of that just freezes him up, well, he's going to be frozen in the corner, huddling underneath the table, maybe. You never know. So that's a point. Before I even start writing, I got to know who the characters are, and like the main characters, like, why is the bad guy killing? Why is the bad guy or girl or woman or whatever, why are they doing what they're doing? And I have to know that really, really, really clear, or else I can't even write a scene. And I pretty much know why the main character is doing it, because they're good people and they want to figure out why the bad person's doing it. And then the supporting characters, same thing. Like, what's going on in their life in this exact book? What are they trying to figure out? What's their arc? What's the beginning of the book? What do they look like? The middle of the book? What do they look like? And at the end of the book, what do they look like? And as soon as I get all of that figured out, then it's like I feel like it's like a deck of cards, and you shuffle them together, and then you gotta like sort them out. I don't know. It's tough. It's chaos. And then you go back to just the sitting down and trying to write it out, failing 1,000 different little ways, and then going back through it and fixing all of those 1,000 mistakes. In a perfect world, you know, you fix them all, and then it becomes a nice, coherent story. Yeah, so let's see. That is like, I think there's another question by Jason Johnson. How detailed of a backstory do you need for each character? That's basically what I just said there. I need to know, if I ever have writer's block, I know that I don't have a detailed enough backstory of why that person is doing what they're doing. And that's why I can't even write what they're doing, because I don't even know what they're thinking. And as soon as I realize that, I usually just go away from the story, go back into the character process, figure it out, get back into the story. And that is basically all I have for this video. Those are the questions I got. Those are like 4 or 5 questions from those people. And I appreciate you guys asking those questions and watching these videos. And if you have any questions, maybe you could ask them on this video. Also, just for a future video, I could do of more Q&As. And I appreciate you guys watching, like I just said. And I'll see you next time.